My husband's been acting strange lately. His hugs are stiff, his kisses mechanical, and even in bed he's a mess. I was starting to wonder if he wanted a divorce until I stumbled upon one of his forum posts. Woke up and found myself 10 years in the future. My crush is now my wife. What do I do? You're back? I looked up at the man standing by the foyer. He was holding his custom-tailored blazer in one hand, top 2 buttons undone, tie hanging loose around his neck. Even his usually perfect hair was sticking up every which way. He didn't look like he'd just returned from a business trip, more like he'd come back from a street brawl. I jumped up, startled. Rough day at work? Why do you look like this? Luke didn't answer. He just stared at me in silence, kept staring. I couldn't help myself. I walked over, tugged on his loose tie, and pulled him closer, grumbling. What? Been gone a few days and now you don't recognize me? He let me drag him a few steps before stammering, "Oh, of course I recognize you." I glanced back at him. He was still staring, eyes fixed on me like a starving fool, overflowing with a kind of raw, puppyish longing. I shot him a playful glare, wrapped my arms around his neck, and leaned in. Miss me that much, huh? He practically stopped breathing when I got close. His eyes darted nervously, lips pressed in a tight line, hands clenched into fists. He looked like some uptight gentleman. Honestly, it was kind of hilarious this was the same Luke who usually turned into a wild animal the second he got home. I brushed my lips against his Adam's apple and whispered in his ear, "Didn't you say over the phone you were gonna make me pay?" I wrapped myself around him, feeling how his body went stiff. I softened my voice. "So, baby, how are you gonna make me pay?" We were so close, I instantly noticed something was off. Just as my hand started to slide down, he suddenly shoved me away. I stared at him, stunned, as his whole face turned beet red. His voice came out rough like sandpaper as he ducked his head and muttered, I haven't showered yet." Then he bolted into the nearest room, my study. I was speechless. Rejected by Luke, I slumped onto the couch, stewing. He always complained I wasn't the proactive one, and now, when I finally make a move, he rejects me? Seriously? I huffed and vowed I'd ignore him forever, when I heard a noise nearby. The study door creaked open. Luke peeked at me, then snuck into our bedroom like a thief. I raised an eyebrow. Even though I was still annoyed, I followed him. Just my luck, right as I stepped into the bedroom, Luke slipped into the bathroom. The sound of running water filled the room. He was showering, sure, but it felt more like he was hiding. I walked over and grabbed the doorknob. It wouldn't turn. He'd locked it. That's when I knew for sure Luke was avoiding me. He never locked the door. He even used to invite me into the tub with a grin. "Babe, you really don't want to join me?" Standing outside the bathroom, I finally began to wonder, had I gone too far? But compared to what Luke usually did to me, what I just did barely counted. When had he ever held back? When had he not kissed and groped and ravished me till I couldn't get out of bed? And now I make one move and he acts like I've got the plague? I was even more pissed. I told myself I'd make him pay when he came out, but I ended up waiting for an hour. When Luke finally stepped out, he was calm and composed. "Hey, babe." I just huffed and turned my back. He rushed over and started babbling. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I just froze, that's all. We've been apart for days. I missed you like crazy." He buried his face in the crook of my neck and nuzzled me. That familiar feeling came rushing back. I looked up at him. "You think you can just nuzzle your way out of this? You can stay mad, it's okay." His eyes sparkled like a puppy's. I was a little stunned. Luke never used to look at me like this. There was always love in his eyes, sure, but usually buried under hunger and heat. Now there was something else, something pure and clear, mixed in with the desire. My hand instinctively cupped his cheek. "What's going on with you?" "Nothing." He loosely wrapped his arms around me and rested his chin on my shoulder. I feel so lucky." He sounded half in awe, half in a daze. "You're really my wife. I'm just so lucky." I pushed him. "We've been married almost 2 years. Isn't it a little late to be saying this?" "Never too late," he said shamelessly. "Words like these, always worth saying." Since he was being so sweet, I let it go. I leaned in and kissed him 10 full seconds. He didn't move. I cracked one eye open and saw him frozen in shock, like he couldn't believe what just happened. His face was all confused, like he wanted to kiss me back but didn't dare. I mumbled against his lips. "You're not gonna kiss me?" "I am, I will." And with that, he finally started kissing me tentatively at first, then slowly, deeply. I closed my eyes and let myself sink into it, but something still felt off. It was like his first kiss, he didn't even know how to breathe through it. I opened my eyes and saw him trembling with excitement. I couldn't bear to interrupt. "Fine," I told myself. "I can deal with a little clumsiness." But things kept being weird. The weirdest part? He stopped touching me altogether. It made no sense. Luke had never been celibate, not once since we got married, but suddenly he was all pure thoughts and chaste intentions. We'd be lying in bed, I'd inch closer, and his breathing would hitch, but he wouldn't touch me. I'd wrap myself around him, and he'd react but still wouldn't touch me. It was like he'd turned into some kind of monk overnight, like he was saving himself for someone else. This sudden marital shift drove me crazy. I called up my best friend Kristen for drinks. I vented the whole time, never mentioned Luke directly, but she caught on anyway. "Why hasn't Luke called you tonight?" she teased. "Isn't he usually texting and calling nonstop when you're out? What happened, fight?" I bit my lip and muttered, "He doesn't like me anymore." "Don't be ridiculous," Kristen scoffed. "Anyone with eyes can see he's head over heels for you." I ended up spilling everything, especially the whole guarding his chastity thing. What kind of situation would make a guy act like that? I took a swig of my drink, seething. It's like he's dying to sleep in separate rooms. "It can't be that bad," she said, trying to reassure me. "Maybe there's something he's not telling you?" My first thought was maybe Luke just wasn't performing. But no, he was clearly still capable. He just refused to act on it. Wasn't he on a business trip to Country X this time? I heard things are pretty chaotic over there. What if he got hurt and didn't want to tell you? My best friend said. He probably just didn't want you to worry. That's totally normal. And didn't you say he delayed his return by 2 days? What if the injury caused the delay? That would explain why Luke's been avoiding you. She concluded confidently. I'm sure that's it. Her comforting words only made me want to rush home and strip Luke down to find out the truth. It was past 11 when I got back. As I opened the door, Luke was on the couch, eagerly reaching for me, but then immediately frowned. You've been drinking? I couldn't help but wonder if he was so worried. Why hadn't he called once? I brushed off his supporting hand, but he insisted on holding and guiding me anyway. After settling me safely on the couch, he thoughtfully brought over a glass of honey water. I stared at him. Did you get hurt? He shook his head, looking confused. No, I didn't. Then take off your clothes. His face flushed bright red. He lifted the hem of his pajamas slightly, then let it fall back down, hesitating again and again. I frowned at his indecision. What? I can't even look at your abs anymore? This time, he stopped hesitating and took off his shirt decisively. His bare torso was flawless, good enough for a magazine cover, no injuries anywhere. I glared at him. Pants, too. Take them off. Only then did he shyly remove his pants. Looking at his blushing, pink-tinged body, I couldn't hold back anymore. I shoved him onto the couch, braced my hands on his shoulders, and demanded, Luke, what the hell is wrong with you? He looked startled and bashful. I don't think anything's wrong. Then prove it. I gave him a look full of meaning. Don't make me lose respect for you. Luke looked up at me, his Adam's apple bobbing hard. Just when I thought he was going to back out again, he grabbed the back of my head and kissed me fiercely. Turns out, it's best not to provoke a man. That night, Luke, desperate not to be looked down on, gave it everything he had. He started out awkward and clumsy, but by the end, he was confident and skilled. I was honestly impressed. We were too caught up and too exhausted for me to dwell on it then, but by the time I woke up the next morning, sore all over, all the strange things started coming back to me. Last night, Luke didn't feel like a man married 2 years. He felt more like a barely legal rookie, no experience, no technique. His hands were shaking trying to put on the condom, couldn't even find the right spot, and he almost finished the first time in seconds. I honestly wanted to kick him off me, but then I saw the sweat on his brow, the redness in his eyes, and I held back. Sure, he got better as the night went on, even returning to his usual level. But still, it was weird. How does a guy go from expert to newbie overnight? No matter how much I thought about it, I couldn't figure it out. As I was overthinking again, the man in question walked in. He was wearing loose, comfy loungewear, clearly just out of the shower. His hair was still damp, messy bangs hanging down over his forehead. Somehow, he looked younger. Staring at him, I felt this strange mix of familiarity and foreignness. Luke sat down on the edge of the bed, carrying a tray with a bowl of plain porridge. He spoke gently. "Are you hungry? Eat a little first. We'll have a proper meal later. Feed me." I said softly, "My arms are sore." The tips of his ears turned red instantly, but he calmly picked up the spoon and brought it to my lips. The porridge was warm, just right, but it wasn't sweet. I glanced at him. Luke's always meticulous. He never forgets things like sugar. My suspicion only grew. I took a few more bites of that tasteless porridge, then stared at the pink flush on his ears and blurted, "Why are you blushing?" Luke lowered his gaze. "Your clothes, they're a bit messy." I looked down. It was the camisole he put on me after thin straps, loosely tied, slipping off my shoulder, revealing skin and faint marks. "So what if it's messy?" I asked, confused. He reached out to adjust the straps, his face serious, movements so careful it was like he was scared to touch me. I placed my hand over his, pressing it to my shoulder. "We've been married for ages. What haven't you seen?" Luke blinked nervously. I grew even more puzzled and went straight to the point. "What is going on with you? You won't kiss me? Won't touch me? You're acting like a totally different person." "Are you still my husband?" I am your husband." "Then why are you stammering?" Luke hesitated for a few seconds, then leaned in to kiss me like he was trying to shut me up, but I wasn't about to let that slide when he hadn't even explained himself. I pushed him back, coldly said, "Start talking." Luke lowered his eyes. "Some things have happened lately. I'm not sure how to handle them. Just give me a little more time, okay? I'll figure it out soon." He looked so lost, I couldn't help thinking of that worn-down, disheveled version of him right after the trip. "Is it work stuff?" I asked. "Yeah," he rushed to say. "It's a little complicated." "I'm sorry. I haven't been very considerate of your feelings lately." He looked at me with guilt in his eyes, and all my suspicions melted away. It was rare for Luke to run into something he couldn't fix. No wonder he was acting weird. "So, you just forgave Consort Liang like that? Isn't that a bit too indulgent?" My friend Kristen asked, clearly unconvinced. "What else am I supposed to do?" I stirred my tea absent-mindedly, glancing up. "Keep fighting? Keep arguing? Would that get me anywhere? Is Luke still acting weird?" Not exactly, but also kind of, yeah. It was this indescribable feeling. Sometimes it felt like Luke was faking intimacy. Sometimes, not at all. I chalked it up to being overly sensitive. "Then just don't overthink it," my friend said, raising her glass. I clinked mine with hers and nodded. "He's busy anyway, so I'll just—" Before I could finish, Luke's assistant walked in. It was afternoon tea time. What assistant shows up during that? It felt intentional. So when he came over to say hello, I asked, "Is work really busy lately?" "It's manageable. No particularly tricky situations?" He paused. "As far as I know, everything's under control." I smiled faintly and stood up. "Great! I'm going to the office with you." The whole way there, I kept thinking about Luke's lie. If his work troubles were fake, then what explained his behavior? I didn't want to believe it, but everything pointed to one thing. Luke had fallen out of love. Maybe there was someone else now. That would explain his distant attitude, the way he held me stiffly, kissed me without passion, even made love like a ghost of his former self. He was nothing like the man I used to know. I took a deep breath and carried the afternoon tea into his office. I handed out the desserts and coffee to the staff in the executive suite. They cheerfully told me Luke was in a meeting, so I waited in his office. His phone, his usual tablet, and his laptop were all laid out right in front of me. I'd never snooped before Luke had never acted like someone with a wandering heart, but now I was curious. What if there really was someone else? I didn't even hesitate. I picked up his phone first, checked WeChat, texts, photos, call logs, nothing suspicious. I raised an eyebrow and reached for the tablet. The password was still my birthday. I unlocked it, and instead of the usual home screen, it looked like he'd turned it off mid-browsing. The screen displayed a post titled, "Woke up 10 years in the future and my crush is my wife. What do I do?" I arched a brow and scanned the content. So I'm a high school senior who just finished the college entrance exams. 2 days ago, I was taking a nap at home and woke up in a strange city. The girl I like was calling me husband and asking when I was coming home. I frowned. Why would Luke be reading such a ridiculous post? Then I caught the username, Jennifer is my wife. My eyes widened. My name is Jennifer. My heart suddenly stopped beating. With trembling fingers, I tapped the profile picture, then the user's homepage. When I saw the big words, edit profile, I went completely silent. This was Luke's account, which meant Luke himself had written that post. Holy, no words could describe the shock I felt. My brain practically crashed as my eyes mechanically skimmed the text. I'm home now. I saw her. She's so warm and affectionate. Looks like we have a great relationship. I can't believe future me is this happy. She's starting to notice I'm acting weird. Am I really that bad at this? I'm scared she'll hate me for it. I wish I hadn't traveled here. She thinks I'm strange, but I don't want to let go. Being with her feels too good, even if it feels like I stole someone else's happiness. I've decided to keep living as her husband. This thread ends here. Thank you, everyone. After reading all the updates, I scrolled down to the comments. Your first task is to uninstall Tomato Novel. Dreaming in broad daylight, huh? Who peed yellow? Wake him up. Must be nice to just wake up and start dreaming after exams. New account roleplay guide? Any chance you can be more subtle? Bro, I got you. Here's what you do. Divorce your goddess, wait for your other self to wake up, and boom, you'll time travel back. That's how it works in novels. Sorry, but how exactly did you time travel? I just finished my exams too. I also want to marry my dream girl. The early comments were all jokes and mockery. But after a few serious updates, the tone started to shift. Okay, even if she's your wife now, you're not her real husband yet. You better not cheat on your future self. Wow, that was fast. Weren't you just trying to go back a few days ago? What happened during those 3 days? Answer us. What did you do to your goddess? Say something. Why is this comment section so united? Y'all just going along with his roleplay now? Lol, what if it's actually true though? The comment section went on and on. My fingers were getting tired from scrolling, but my mind was growing clearer. So Luke had traveled here from the past. That's why he was acting so off. Of course. He had just finished high school. He was only 18. One nap later, he woke up to find a wife he'd been married to for almost 2 years. No experience, no technique that made total sense. He was just a fresh-faced kid. Thinking back on Luke's awkward behavior the last few days, I couldn't help but laugh. It didn't take long for me to accept that Luke was currently 18 years old. After all, that was still better than him falling out of love. I was just about to lock the tablet when something caught my eye, something I'd been overlooking all along. Luke had described me as the girl I like. I'd always assumed he liked me, so the phrasing didn't stand out at first. But here's the thing, he's only 18. And back in our early days, I was the one who fell for him first. I chased him, and he was so hard to get cold, indifferent, completely immune to flirting or pressure. Recalling all the effort I'd poured into winning him over, I muttered under my breath, what a little actor. We met at a friend's gathering. I had just returned from studying abroad where I'd seen my fill of blonde-haired, blue-eyed foreign guys. Seeing Luke, this poised, handsome guy with classic Chinese features, I was stunned. I couldn't say it was love at first sight, but I definitely wanted to get closer, so I approached him and sat beside him. Can I get your contact info? I still remember what he wore, a misty blue shirt, an unusual color that somehow fit his vibe perfectly. He was adjusting his cuffs slowly, and the lines of his forearm were so good-looking I could barely take my eyes off him. But then he doused my enthusiasm with a cold response. No. All right. I wasn't the type to push, so I dropped it. The second time we met was at a birthday party. Luke showed up late, wearing a black shirt that fit him just right. He greeted everyone politely but kept his distance. My eyes were drawn to him again. Something about him just kept catching my gaze. This time, I learned from my failure and used a game of truth or dare to get his contact info. At first, I didn't plan on pursuing him, just wanted to get to know him better. But Luke wasn't the type for small talk. He got straight to the point. Why do you keep messaging me? Don't you have anything else to do? I timidly replied, I just want to talk. Why? In that moment, backed into a corner, I blurted it out, because I like you. Can I pursue you? He was silent for a long time before finally saying, I'm not easy to win over. At the time, I didn't take that as a no at all. I was fired up, full of confidence. I chased Luke for over a year before he finally agreed to date me. After nearly 2 years of dating, I was the one who proposed marriage. After we got married, our relationship felt completely balanced. No one would have guessed I had once thrown myself at him. I'd even felt proud of that. And now I find out he's liked me since he was 18. I shut my eyes, fury and humiliation roiling in my chest. There was also a stubborn, inexplicable sense of competitiveness flaring up. I just wanted to find Luke and confront him. And right then, as if on cue, Luke pushed open the door after his meeting. His eyes lit up when he saw me. "You're here?" I forced down my emotions and said, "I missed you." He rushed over, but when his eyes landed on the phone and tablet beside me, he visibly froze. I said sweetly, "I was just gonna play a game on the tablet, but I forgot the password." "It's your birthday," he replied, patting my head in reassurance as he subtly pushed the tablet a bit farther away. I nestled into his arms and snuck a glance up at him. 18-year-old Luke clearly didn't have the composure of his future self. At least now, there was a trace of panic in his eyes. If I ever wanted to mess with him, now was my chance. Realizing that, I wrapped my arms around his waist and looked up at him. "You've been acting so strange lately. I'm starting to think you've fallen out of love." "Huh?" He stiffened. "What do you mean, strange?" "Everything's strange," I said. "You're not nearly as passionate with me as you used to be." His voice tightened. "How was I before?" I blinked at him innocently. "Are you asking me?" He went quiet for a moment, then covered my eyes with his hand, his voice hoarse in my ear. "Got it. I've just been busy lately. I'll go back to how I was." I don't know what he did, but over the next few days, his behavior almost perfectly matched the Luke I knew post-marriage. If it weren't for the occasional flash of clear panic in his eyes, I might have really believed the old big bad wolf version of him was back, but clearly not. This version was far easier to fool. One evening when he got home, I approached him with a new apron in my hands. "Your turn to cook for me." The apron was suggestive in design. Luke took it, raised an eyebrow, but didn't say anything. Just as he was about to pull it on over his shirt, I reminded him, "Just the apron, nothing else." His face instantly turned beet red, and the apron suddenly looked like it was burning hot. He hesitated, clearly unsure what to do. After a long pause, he muttered, "Do I really have to?" "Of course, you promised, remember?" I said righteously. He hadn't, actually. The old Luke had way too much pride to agree to something like this, but this Luke? Innocent, gullible, easily coaxed. A little push, and he caved. He looked down helplessly. "You really just want dinner?" "Let's eat first," I said with a sly grin. "What happens after dinner, we'll see." He sighed in resignation, face flushed red, and began unbuttoning his shirt right in front of me. That night's dinner was unusually lavish. Having tasted the sweetness of victory, I went on a spree buying all sorts of things I'd always wanted to try but never dared. Luke was practically my personal playground. He was bashful yet bold, shy yet wild, and I was more than pleased. I kept testing new tricks on him, but pride always comes before a fall. One night, while he stood before me shirtless, wagging a fluffy wolf tail on his backside, I couldn't help but pounce on him. "You're just too perfect, hubby." He carefully supported my waist, smiling. "You like it?" "Love it." I nodded furiously. "Love it so much." "As long as you do." He nuzzled my forehead obediently. He was so damn tempting like this. I couldn't help but sigh. "You're way more obedient now than you used to be." His body visibly tensed. I realized what I'd just blurted out and froze. I was about to pretend nothing had happened when Luke suddenly gripped my shoulders. "What do you mean now? What do you mean used to?" I tried to play it off, just what it sounds like. But he was unusually sharp in that moment, not buying it at all. He flipped me over and pinned me down, straight up asking, "You found out?" I said nothing. He stared at me for a few seconds, then said with certainty, "You know." His fingers stroked my cheek, his voice tinged with danger. "I should have known." "You figured me out." Something about Luke in that moment scared me a little. I shrank back, pretending to be calm. "So, what if I did? You left so many clues." How could I not? He let out a soft laugh. When did you find out? Without waiting for me to answer, he guessed, the day you came to my office? You've been awfully bold with me since that day, he added. I snorted bullseye. He ran his fingers down the length of the wolf tail behind him, smoothing it thoughtfully. So you figured it out, and that's why you made me play along? What else? The weak and easygoing Luke was gone, replaced by someone exuding dominance. I huffed. You deserved it after how you acted before. He blinked innocently. What did I do before? Since he genuinely didn't remember, I said, You've liked me all along, haven't you? But between us, I was the one who chased you first. I was the one who proposed. Luke raised his brows, clearly amused. You're kind of mean, huh? That look on his face made me want to punch him. I twisted his waist in mock anger. You liked me, but pretended not to care. I scolded. When I asked for your contact info, you must have been thrilled, weren't you? Probably, he said. But I still turned you down, didn't I? I took a deep breath, trying to be patient. Why were you so sure you'd reject me? Things that come too easily, you don't cherish them. I couldn't help but argue, that's not true. He smiled faintly. Remember your high school boyfriend? You chased him for a day. Not even chased, just told him you liked him. The next day, he said yes. You dated for a week, then broke up because you got bored. That was ancient history, I frowned. Why bring that up now? Because for me, it only happened recently, he said. It made such an impression that I promised myself if there ever came a day you liked me, I'd drag it out, drag it so long that you'd never forget me. I sighed. Well, are you satisfied now? He gave me a kiss at the corner of my mouth. Seems like I did a pretty good job. I let out a little snort. He sat up and started removing the wolf tail behind him. I kicked at him playfully. Since we're already laying it all out, let's talk more. Talk about what? Like how much you like me. Luke blushed and squirmed. What's there to say? I want to know. He stayed silent. I sniffled dramatically, hatching a plan. Actually, I never told you this, but in the 2 years we've been married, I've always felt pretty insecure. You? Insecure? Yeah, I admitted frankly. I've put way more into this relationship than you. I'd hold you, pretending it was nothing, but I was always afraid you'd leave. You're too good-looking, too many people like you, and you never even told me you loved me. Luke calmly pulled back to put distance between us. You told me yesterday that future me says I love you every single day after we got married. Damn it, even 18-year-old him was getting hard to fool now. I stared at him. He stared back, then finally sighed. There's nothing much to say. So many people like you, what's so strange about me being one of them? It's not strange, no. But he's the husband I chased for a year and a half. Somehow, he could tell what I was thinking. If I'd let you catch me that easily back then, I'd be just another guy passing through your life. I huffed and went silent. Luke took off the wolf tail and got dressed again. The room fell into an odd, tense silence. No one spoke. After a while, he said softly, I'll do my best to be a good husband from now on. I frowned. You say that like you're not already him. I wasn't mentally prepared before, he admitted. It always felt like I was taking someone else's place. But I've figured it out now, I am him, and I'll treat you right. I hadn't given much thought to the fact that 18-year-old Luke had time-traveled here, but now that we were talking about it, I couldn't help but ask, do you have any regrets? If you can't go back, it means you're losing 10 years of your life. Not losing, he said, pulling me into his arms. As long as I get to spend that time with you and it's happy, that's all that matters. But we've only been together for 6 of those years. Then I must have missed you terribly for the other 4. God, he really knew how to talk. I leaned in and gave him a kiss on the corner of his mouth. He cupped the back of my head, not letting me pull away. The kiss deepened, turning lingering and passionate. When it finally ended, he wiped the moisture from my lips and asked quietly, So, do you think I kiss better now or back then? What a weirdo. Was he seriously jealous of himself? I was pretty accepting of the whole time travel thing, but Luke seemed to have doubts. He kept asking, Do you really accept the me I am now? He asked it so often I got annoyed, wanted to shout in his ear, and what if I didn't? I mean, obviously this version of him was better than if he'd fallen out of love. If he traveled here with a heart full of love for me, then I couldn't just dump him because he'd gotten a few years younger, right? Since he was here, I might as well accept it. After all, Luke was still my husband. That hadn't changed. What I really worried about was him. He was younger now, several years younger. Love wasn't a problem for him. But what about work? Luke used actions to prove that his reliability was as rock solid as ever. When I was little, my dad took me to the company all the time. I learned to read by looking at contracts, he said. And besides, we've got the strategy team. If I really don't know what to do, I ask for their advice. That put me at ease. Life went on as usual. Luke started to believe he wasn't going back. As he'd said, he stepped fully into the role of my husband. Sometimes I'd forget he was ever from the past. He and the Luke I knew overlapped so perfectly. In every way except he liked to bring up stories from when we were dating. I'd grumble, "What's there to talk about?" It was just the same old tale how the top hunter often disguises themselves as prey. Luke switched tactics. "Then tell me, how did I seduce you back then?" That got me going. I started ticking off his crimes on my fingers. There was this one time I asked you to go watch the sunrise. When the time came, you never responded, so I went to your room. Do you know how you answered the door? Was I not wearing clothes? As expected, the older Luke had better game than this version. I scowled. You were wearing this super thin white tank top, totally see-through. Your eyes were red, hair all messy, and you apologized in this raspy voice, saying something like, "Sorry, I overslept." Just thinking about it made my heart flutter again. I totally forgot about the sunrise. I just wanted to... Wanted to what? Not telling you, I snorted. What else? Luke was clearly fascinated. Oh, the mountain trip, I said. We agreed to sleep in separate tents, but you showed up in the middle of the night with your sleeping bag, saying you were cold. Luke raised a brow. I was that forward? Of course he wasn't. All he did was call out softly from his tent. I asked what was wrong, and when I found out his tent had been soaked with water, I played it like I was doing him a favor and convinced him to sleep in mine. In the middle of the night, he shivered slightly and mumbled that he was cold. I naturally snuggled up to him, thrilled at the chance for some intimacy. Who would have guessed it was all part of his plan? Luke gave a satisfied chuckle. I glared at him and kept recounting his sneaky past antics. I didn't know which part of the story triggered it, but the relaxed man with his chin resting in his hand suddenly shifted posture. With a teasing smile in his voice, he said, "So I was that much of a menace, huh?" "Exactly, you were..." I froze, blinking at him. He gently stroked my cheek. "What's wrong? Don't recognize your own husband?" My throat tightened. I swallowed hard. "You're back?" He nodded. "And the other me?" "He's probably gone back," he said. "Thanks to him, I got to relive my youth in a parallel universe." I nodded slowly, still dazed. "Come here." He held out his hand. I frowned. "You're so bossy. The other you wasn't like this." The bossy version of him leaned in and pinned me beneath him. "So, tell me, what exactly have you two been doing all this time?" "And what have you been doing?" I asked. He answered easily. "Getting my application ready for studying abroad." "At the same school as me?" He nodded, then cleared his throat, as if trying to hide something. "Since we're destined to be together anyway, I figured we might as well meet sooner." I laughed. "Be honest, you just wanted to seduce me early." Luke looked flustered for once. I wrapped my arms around his neck and whispered, "I already know you liked me from the start. That whole act was just you plotting from the beginning." That shameless man only paused for a second before recovering smoothly. "What else do you know?" "I even figured out why you liked me." I bluffed. "Impossible," he said. I blinked. "Why not?" "Because I plan to take that secret to the grave." I was stunned. "Why?" "So you'll stay curious about me forever," he said cheerfully, pinching my cheek. What a scheming bastard. I flopped back and groaned. "I'm done playing." "Then let's settle some scores," he said good-naturedly. "What scores?" "What exactly did you two do these past few days?" I corrected him. It was we. "All right," he agreed easily. "Then what did we do these past few days?" I suddenly felt awkward. I mean, I saw them as the same person, but now that he was pressing me like this, I couldn't quite say it aloud. He shifted his leg, urging me on. "You know the things we usually do." He let out a laugh. Excellent. Something jolted through my mind. I stared at him. Wait, you're not jealous of yourself too, are you? What do you mean too? His expression darkened. That version of me was jealous? Of me? How dare he? I wanted to shake him awake seriously. They were the same person. Luke pinned me down and said softly, Jennifer, talk. When I kept silent, he kept pressing. Driven to the edge by his interrogation, I finally cried out, Someone please come take me away. I want to time travel too.